Geography. Grimgar. The world that were forced to this world. Nobody knows whether we were forced to an entire continent or an entire island. Part of one of those, or if it encompasses everything, basically when those who live in this world were forged to the world, they use this name. Generally, it will forged to the area south of the Tenryu Mountains, the homeland, and the north of them, the frontier, in a single ward. The Arabakia Kingdom, almost the only human kingdom, city, states, and micronations do exist, though they once held territory in what is now called the frontier and were highly prosperous. They were defeated by the Undying Empire and retreated south of the Tenryu Mountains, maintaining their power. Since that time, they have come to call the area south of the Tenryus the homeland, and the area north of them the frontier. The fortress city Ortona, the Arabakia kingdom's sole fortified stronghold north of the Tenyu Mountains, the town of the beginning, the fortress of humanity, with long with lodgings, taverns, weapon shops, guilds, and more. It has all of the necessary facilities in place. The Margrave of Ortona, Garland Verdoi, was the city. It shelters the Ortona frontier army led by General Racentra, by forming alliances with the elves of the Shadow Forest, the dwarves of the Black Gold Mountain Range, and the centaurs of Quick Wind Plains, they have somehow managed to sustain their power. They have hostile relations with all other races. Monsters. Goblin. Ugly, diminutive humanoids. Height tends to be about 140 centimeters at most. Many individuals are around 120 centimeters. They have greenish skin and pointed ears, though they can vary. They tend to be clever and will engage in battles when they are at a disadvantage. Prefer to act in groups, have formed a kingdom ruled by a royal bloodline. They give birth in litters, have short gestation period of around 3 months, and mature quickly. So the species has an extraordinarily large number of individuals. One trait they have is that they carry a small bag of called a goblin pouch slung over one shoulder in which they keep items of value. High-ranked goblins decorate their pouches. These can sell for a high amount. They seem to have a liking for fashion as they often wear expensive items on themselves, something to target. Hobgoblin, a subrace of goblins which are less common compared to the standard goblin. They resemble goblins but are built larger, being roughly human size. They are far more fierce than goblins but less intelligent, sometimes being tamed by goblins and turned into slave warriors. They are generally bullied for being taller than the other goblins. Some intelligent hobgoblins have formed a tribal society and regard goblins as enemies. Occasionally, there is a submissive hobgoblin that has been tamed by goblins, armed as a bodyguard, and will fight fiercely on their behalf. Most important goblins have such a hobgoblin protecting them. Pit rat. Rats that are roughly the size of cats, they are speedy and have exceptionally hard hair. Similar to porcupines, they have the trait of curling into a ball and rolling away at high speed. Many subspecies exist. They are omnivores but like meat, and there are pit rats that will target larger animals, including humans, as prey. Their meat is not very tasty. Their pelts are little use. They are vermin. Undead. One faction of the undead, a new race called created by the no-life king, skeletons, zombies, and ghosts, are not technically undead, though humans often view them as undead. Undead are creatures that have died but are not dead and do not rot. They have powerful regenerative abilities, and even when their brains are destroyed or they are burned, it does not destroy them. It is said that dead bodies given No Life King's black blood became the undead, but even now, with No Life King gone, the priests and bishops of the undead perform the ritual of undeath to undeafen corpses. Those who are undeafened lose most of the memories that they had in life, pledging allegiance to No Life King. This remains unchanged even now that No Life King is no more. Zombie. Due to No Life King's course, those who die in Grimgar, unless proper measures are taken, become servants of No Life King. Zombies are the servants with meat, while that have fully rotted become skeletons. Severing the head or destroying the brain will stop them from moving, but left alone, they will become either partial skeleton parts or ghosts. Class listing: Warrior, Mage, Thief, Priest, Hunter, Paladin, Dread Knight. There are also other specialized classes such as Samurai. Acquisition of skills in magic. When a skill or magic is force learned through training, what is learned is only the basics, enough to execute it, but not enough to use it with sufficient power and effect. Through practice or use in battle, which is said to be 10 times as effective, your degree of skill builds and gradually you become able to execute it with power and effect it was meant to have. It takes considerable time and effort to master it fully. Clans: a team or group formed by volunteer soldiers, primarily those working toward the same goal. Members are all comrades when assaulting a fortress or labyrinth that is too large for a single party. A number of parties must band together. It is thought that these sort of circumstances are what lead to the formation of clans. In the volunteer soldier corps, there are no fixed regulations for them, but it is recommended to report it to the office when forming a clan. Guilds: there are a number of guilds in this world. Most are organizations for a designated trade, and a pact between all of the guilds ensures that an individual may only hold membership in one guild. In almost all guilds, there is a code that all members must follow. This is not written down, but passed verbally to the members. Those who break the code are expelled. Expelled members may never return to the guild. Furthermore, whether expulsion is the worst that happens to the offender depends on the guild. In some guilds, pursuers were chased down the expelled, seeking their lives. Awaken. He opened his eyes, feeling like he'd heard someone's voice. It was dark. Nighttime, maybe, but not pitch black. There were lights, fire, above him. Some kind of lighting? Candles, it looked like. Small ones affixated to the wall. Not just one, but many, spaced evenly, continuing as far as he could see. Where is this place? It was kind of hard to breathe. When he tried touching the wall, it was hard and rocky. This was no wall. It was just bare rock. Little wonder his back was sore after lying against it. His butt hurt too. Maybe he was in a cave. A cave? Why would he be in a cave? Those candles were pretty high up. He might be able to reach one if he stood. That was how high they were. Moreover, they didn't even give off enough light for him to see his hands and feet. But he sensed the presence of others nearby. When he listened closely, there was a faint noise that sounded like breathing. Humans? What if they weren't? He might be in trouble. But they sounded human. Somehow. Is anyone there? He asked hesitantly. Yeah, a man's voice shot back. I'm here, came another response, likely that of a woman. Another man's voice gave a short, yeah. I figured as much, another person added. How many of us are there? Should we count? And where are we, anyway? Dunno. What? Doesn't anyone know where we are? What's going on? What is this? Seriously, what the hell is this? What was he doing in a place like this, and why? How long had he been here? He clutched at his chest tightly as if trying to claw something off of it. He had no clue what was going on, how long he had been here. Why was he here? When he began to consider his situation, something began to tug at the back of his mind, but it suddenly vanished before he could latch onto it. He didn't know. He didn't know anything. He was at a complete loss. Sitting here won't solve anything, said one man in a low, husky voice. There was a sound, like someone stepping on pebbles. Sounded like the man had stood up. Going somewhere? A woman's voice asked. Following the wall, the man answered. Going to try heading towards the light. The man's tone was surprisingly calm. Wasn't he scared? Why hasn't he shaken up by this? The man was now beneath the second candle from him, and he seemed very tall. He could make out a bit of the man's head in the candlelight. The man's hair wasn't black. Was it silver? I'm going too, the woman said. Me too, I guess, a man's voice said. Hold on, guys, I'm coming too then, called another man. There's the other direction too, said yet another person. The voice sounded slightly high pitched, but it was probably another male. We could probably go that way. There's no candles, though, the haired man said. If you want to go that way, be my guest, and started walking. It looked like everyone would be following the silver-haired man. I'd better go too, then, he thought. He stood up hurriedly, not wanting to be left alone. He nervously stepped forward, keeping a hand on the rock wall. The ground wasn't smooth, it was uneven, but easy enough to walk on. There was someone in front of him and someone behind. He didn't know who, though. Judging by the voices, nobody here was all that old. I don't know any of these people. At least, I don't think so, he thought. Who were the people he knew? Acquaintances? Friends? But just who exactly were they? Strange. He couldn't think of anyone. No, it was more like whenever he tried to walk backwards from the faces that did come to mind, they would suddenly vanish. It didn't just happen with friends, family, too. It wasn't that he didn't know them at all, it was more that he ought to have known them, but he was forgetting. Maybe it's best not to think about it, he said aloud. Did you? Asked a voice from behind. Definitely a young girl's voice. Did you say something? No, it was nothing. He stopped. Nothing important? Really? Nothing important? How is it not important? He shook his head to clear it. At some point, he seemed to have stopped walking. I should continue on, he thought. He needed to keep walking. It was better not to think about it. The more he tried to remember, the less he felt like he knew. The row of candles continued. There was no end in sight. How long had he been walking? Had he walked a long way or not? He couldn't say which. His sense of time and space had become dulled. There's something here, said someone up ahead. It's bright. These are lamps? The silver-haired man said. It's an iron gate. Do you think it's the exit? Exclaimed a different man, his voice shrill and excited. The sound of the heavy footfalls lightened. Even in the dark, he could tell everyone was hurrying ahead. He could see the light sources now. They were much brighter than the candles had been. Those were definitely lamps. When they were hanging on the wall, the lamps were illuminating what looked like an iron grate. The silver-haired man grabbed the iron grate. Not only was his hair silver, the man was dressed like a gangster. He shook the iron grate violently, like a gangster would, and it began to move. I'm opening it, the gangster called, pulling the grate inwards. With a creaking noise, the iron grate door opened. Oh! Several people cried out at the same time. Can we get out? Exclaimed a woman dressed in flashy clothes who was standing behind the gangster. The gangster headed through the door. There are stairs. We can go up. Through the door was cramped, moldy corridor. Beyond that, there were some steps. There was no light, but sun was shining down from above. The group ascended the stairs in a single file, one step at a time. There was another iron grate at the top of the stairs. This one looked like it wouldn't open. The gangster bashed the grate with his fist over and over again. Is anybody there? Open the door! The gangster roared like a beast. The flashy woman joined in, shouting, Hey, someone, anyone, open up! From behind them, a guy with curly hair shouted, Hey, open the door! Hey! They didn't have to wait long. The gangster took his hand off the grate and stepped back. Apparently, someone had come. The flashy woman and guy with curly hair went quiet, and there was the sound of a lock turning. The iron grate opened, and a man's voice said, Get out. He assumed the voice belonged to the man who had unlocked the door and opened the door. They ascended the stairs, and there was a stone room. It was windowless, but brightly lit thanks to the lamps. In addition to the stairs they had come up, there was another set of stairs going up to a higher level. The whole place feels too old, like it doesn't belong in the modern world, he thought. The man who opened the gate was dressed weird too. I mean, those aren't clothes he's wearing. That metal stuff he's wearing is armor. I'd call that headgear he has on an armored helmet too. And that object hanging from his waist. It doesn't look like a nightstick. Is it a sword or something similar? Armor, a helmet, and a sword? What era did this guy come from? Then again, I guess that's not the problem here. The man in armor pulled a blackish switch on the wall. The wall and floor shook slightly and a heavy sound echoed throughout the room. The wall moved. It opened. Part of the wall slowly opened. It sunk down, leaving a hole. An oblong rectangular hole. The man in armor simply said, Get out, again gesturing towards the hole with his chin. The gangster went outside first, and the flashy woman followed. Everyone followed after them, going through the hole one after another as if being pulled along. Outside. This time they really were outside. It was either pre-dawn or twilight. The dimly lit sky spread out as far as the eye could see. This was the top of a small hill. When they turned around, a large tower rose in front of them. They had been inside that tower, or perhaps it would be more accurate to say beneath it. Counting everyone in the group, there were 8 males, including Gangster Crowley and himself, and 4 females, including Flashy, 12 in total. It was dark, so he couldn't see that much detail. Still, he could make out the fingers, roughly what they were wearing, hairstyles, and general facial features. As he had thought, he didn't recognize anyone. You think that's a city? Asked the slender man of Silky Hill. He was pointing to the other side of the hill. Looking in that direction, he could see buildings crowded together. A town. It certainly looked like one. It had to be a town, except that the town was surrounded by a high fence. No, not a fence. It was surrounded by high, solid walls. Rather than a town, said the thin man wearing black rimmed glasses, it's almost like a castle. A castle? He whispered, but for some reason his own voice sounded like someone else's. A petite girl from behind him timidly asked, "Where is this? Do you think?" "Look, asking me isn't going to help," he said. "Right, of course. D does anyone know? Where is this place?" No one said anything, unless they were deliberately trying to trouble the girl or were concealing the information for some other reason. That meant none of them had any idea. "I've got it," said a man who looked like a playboy, clapping his hands together. He wore a boarded cut and sew outfit. "Why don't we just ask that dude? You know, the one who was in like armor or whatever?" Everyone turned and looked at that towel, and then it happened. The entrance began to shrink. The wall rose up again, filling the hole. "Whoa, whoa, wait!" Playboy made a panicked run for it. He was too late. The entrance vanished, leaving the spot where it had once been, indistinguishable from the surrounding wall. Playboy tried touching and hitting the wall in all sorts of ways while crying out things like, "Oh, come on, you can't be doing this! Wait, wait, stop it! Please, man!" But nothing happened. After a while, Playboy sat down, dejected. "Well, this is a problem," said a girl with her long hair and true braids. She said the word problem with a funny accent. "You said it," replied Curly Hair, crouching down and hanging his head. "Seriously? Seriously?" And now, with that perfect timing, a high-pitched woman's voice rang out. Wait, who? He thought. There were 4 girls in the group. Flashy, the one with braids, the petite and timid one, and even a tinier girl who had been shorter than 150 centimeters. The high-pitched voice didn't sound like it belonged to Flashy, braids, or timid. It probably wasn't Tiny's voice either. "I appear, I take the stage, Where am I? I'm right here." "Right where?" cried Playboy, standing up and shouting. "Don't panic. Don't be alarmed. But still, don't relax. Don't pull you out your hair either." Singing something like cha ra 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 ra, cha ra 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 run. A woman poked her hair out from the side of the towel she had apparently been hiding. Is her hairstyle what they call twin tails? He wondered. "Hey, is everyone feeling fine? Welcome to Grimgar. I'm your guide, Hyomu. Nice to meet you. Let's get along. Kyapi." A man with a buzz cut grounded his teeth loudly. "What an annoying speech style," he muttered. Hyomu ducked her head behind the towel, but soon stuck it out again. "You're so scary. So dangerous. Don't get so mad. Okay, 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 okay?" Buzzcut clicked his tongue in his face. "Then don't piss me off." "Yes, sorry." Hyomu hopped out next to the tower, raising her hand in salute. "I'll be careful from now on, so I'll be real careful. So, is this okay? Is this okay, right?" "You're doing that on purpose, aren't you?" "Oh, could you tell?" "Don't get mad. Don't punch me. Don't kick me. I don't like being hurt. Genuinely, I don't want you to be nice to me. Anyway, is it okay if I move things along now? Can I do my job now?" Hurry it up, said the gangster in a low voice. Unlike Buzzcut, he didn't look openly agitated. Still, his tone was intimidating. Alrighty then, Hyomu began with a grin. I'm gonna do my job now, okay? The sky was getting brighter by the moment. It was much brighter now than it had been earlier, which meant it must be morning, not dusk. The dawn was breaking. For now, just follow after me. Don't get left behind. Hyomu started to walk, her twin tails swaying behind her, looking around. They saw a path from the tower leading down the hill. Grass fields spread out on both sides of a dark path of exposed earth that had been hardened with use, and there were large white stones scattered around the grass that covered the hill. A lot of them, too many. It looked almost like they were in orderly rows. It was as if someone had lined them up. Hey, are those? Coley asked, pointing out at the white stones. Could they be graves? He shuddered. Speaking of which, he noticed something of writing carved into them. Flowers had been placed in front of some as well. A graveyard. Could this be a graveyard? At the head of the group, Hyomu giggled without turning around. I wonder. Well, don't you worry about that now. Don't worry. It's too soon for you. Any of you. I hope it's too soon for any of you. Buzzcut clicked his tongue in distaste again, kicking the door. He seemed pretty ticked off, but it looked like he still planned to follow Hyomu for now. Gangstar had already started walking. Glasses, Flashy, and Tiny followed him. Playboy shouted, Whoa, me too, me too, me too, and began chasing after them, then tripped. It looked like if there was no choice but to go along. But where was Hyomu planning to take them? Where was this place? Looking up at the sky, ah, what's that? It's pretty low in the sky. It can't be the sun, and it's too big to be a distant star. It's not even a full circle anyway, and its shape is somewhere between a half and a crescent moon. Did that mean it's the moon then? That'd be a weird moon, though. It's red, he said out loud. He blinked, taking another look at it. No matter how many times he looked, it was still ruby red. Behind him, Timid gulped audibly. Ugh. He turned around to see she was gazing at the moon as well. Ah, said Braids, as she seemed to notice it too. She blinked repeatedly and then chuckled. Mr. Moon is red. That's super pretty. The man with silky hair looked up to the moon hanging in the dawn sky, standing still with an absent look on his face. Coley said, Whoa, with a wide-eyed stare. An excessively large but seemingly quiet man let out a groan. He didn't know where this was, where he had come from. How had he gotten here? He didn't know those things either. He couldn't recall. But there was one thing of certain. The moon in that other place wasn't red. A red moon was just weird.